So we are live.
Is it showing up for you?
I just refreshed my feed, so yeah, I'll check it.
Great. Looks like it's streaming on the.
I do see it there, yes, and I will go ahead and we'll try to spread the word here.
Yeah, awesome. So take a second here. We are live, and we are just sharing this. Matt and I getting set up here. In just a moment, we'll kick in the conversation. Yeah, beautiful.
All right. Been shared to
You're quick, bro.
free group that's interested in watching, should be able to have access. And yeah, I'm happy to be here with you. You know, I admire what you guys do at Schneider Speech. I know you've been a long running clinic in New York, and yeah, just
I thought you were talking
discussing it here with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, man, it's great. Long time in the waiting. I think, like you said, we hung out in Chicago last in person at the NSA conference, and realizing we're in these times, these challenging times in many ways with COVID, and now this unbelievable experience of just seeing the pain of the Black community in America. It would be weird and wrong not to recognize that that's going on in the backdrop. And it felt even weird going on to do this, but I just wanted to acknowledge that up front. And I think that having crucial conversations is probably one of the things that all of us can be doing with each other. And so I'd like to think of this as one of those conversations. Conversations shouldn't stop, but we should be having more conversations about injustice and moving towards more justice and more fairness for everybody, and especially the Black community right now.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you opened up with that, because obviously it is a trying time in that area. And yeah, I mean, I just want to affirm everything you said on that. And yeah, I think it's appropriate to acknowledge that on this day, you know, in doing a Facebook Live. So
yeah,
well said.
I posted a poem that I wrote and a statement. If anyone wants to see it, it's on Facebook. It's everywhere except not on Instagram yet, and it's on our blog page. And I put together some videos for people to kind of hear stories from Black people talking about this unspoken experience that many of us have not really been tuned into or been privy to or tried hard enough to tune into. So that's available if people want to check that out. With that, we can transition. Otherwise, I'm going to start to cry.
Well, I do appreciate you touching on that. And yeah, as I said, well said.
All right. Yeah. So I feel like letting everybody listen in. This is just two guys.
Absolutely. There you go. And yeah, obviously I've known you now for a few years. As stated in the beginning, just, you know, I've admired your work and kind of what you do in the stuttering community. I know you've launched a new program, and yeah, just like as somebody who's very interested in treatment and how effective it is, etc. I'm kind of interested just in what your views are on, like, what is the nature of stuttering, how to approach treatment, how much positive change can be made with somebody who would go to work with you. And yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people who work with SLPs to have some idea of what their vantage points are on those things. So, I mean, there's a lot packed into that, but, you know, if you'd care to share on any of those subjects, that would be great.
Yeah. Question where to begin. Now I'm getting a little echo. I don't know if it's the Facebook situation. One idea might be, Matt, if you turn your volume down a drop.
Okay.
I think it'll be better. Yeah, and obviously I think somewhere this is posted so people can drop comments. Hopefully Matt and I might see it. Approach to stuttering, I think it has to start with the person, you know. I would start with the comment that my father always says, my father, Dr. Phil Schneider. We don't have lips walk into the office. We don't have a stutter walk into the office. A person walks in the office. John, Sarah, whoever. And that person is coming because they're looking to do better. And I think that's where we begin. And stuttering happens to be the topic. Stuttering happens to be the physiological experience or symptom that they're contending with. But we're not there to treat stuttering. We're there to help a person get ahead. And I think the moment we lose sight of that, we're already off base. So I think it's got to start, patient-centered care in medicine, people-centered work when it comes to the work that we do. The introduction usually goes like this: you're the boss, I just work here, give me my job, and then I look forward to the day that you fire me, that you no longer need me because you're independent and climbing your mountain and doing your thing and saying what you want to say. So in terms of an approach, I would say like that's first and foremost. And then if we then dive into stuttering in full partnership with the person and in full respect to the agency that they have in their life, that they are the ones that are going to be the ones living. They've been living with this. They're going to be living with their life. So far be it from us to kind of think we can wave a magic wand in some clinical context. It has to be focused on the person being a full partner in setting goals, in looking at progress, and determining, even decisions of how frequently and how intensely we work together versus spacing things out, what emphasis we put on different parts of therapy. So the person is a full partner, and decision-making is done in full partnership with the person that comes to us. Again, we're talking about teens and adults, maybe school-age kids. We're definitely not talking about preschoolers. That's a whole different, different way and needs of treatment, because there the kid doesn't bring himself, the parents bring him. So the parents are shareholders. But looking at older kids, teens, and adults, it starts with the person and it ends with the person. And somewhere in the middle, there's some stuttering. And whatever degree the stuttering is getting in the person's way, we're going to deal with it in that measure. So there's the iceberg analogy that we often start with, to make sure the person is familiar. And I believe that every person that I've met who stutters, and I'm still learning, and I'm still learning new things every day. But as of yet, the people that I've met all have some share of the experience above the surface of the iceberg, which is the observable, audible, visual, symptoms and experiences of stuttering that are apparent to people around them. And then there's the part that's beneath the surface, and that's the part that is not easily seen. But the feelings, the thoughts, the experiences, the conditioning, the behaviors. And for each person that comes to us, the proportion, the specifics of what's above, the specifics of what's below is different. But everybody's got a measure of something above and something below. And therefore, whatever we're going to do to treat or work with the person, we don't even call it treatment. And we don't really call it working with someone, we think of ourselves, again, as coaches for hire. We are speech language pathologists, fully licensed and so on. But pathology is identifying illness. And we are good at diagnosing, and we have that in our licensing. But nobody that comes for help with stuttering needs to be diagnosed. We've already gotten that done. Nobody comes in and says, I stutter, and we need to clarify. It might be a related fluency thing, but you know what you're dealing with. So we get right into it in terms of trying to help the person get ahead and try to help ourselves and themselves and whatever is in their way kind of either get out of the way and also empower them to get forward. So above the surface, beneath the surface, ask the person pretty early on, here's what that iceberg looks like. What do you think? What do you think your journey requires? What do you think is going on for you? Do you think it's 50-50?
Yeah.
80-20 or 20-80? And then the treatment or whatever the course of work is we're going to do together should be in that measure. I could talk more.
Yeah. I really appreciate, that thorough of a response. One thing I would ask, obviously, as you know, in the history of stuttering research and its treatment, it is it has been shown to be a very persistent condition, that can be resistant to numerous treatment methodologies. So yeah, like, it sounds like the model in your head for when somebody walks into the office and they hire you as boss, right? To help them.
They're the boss. We work for them.
Gotcha. That's what I meant. My bad.
We're contractors.
Yeah. No, I appreciated how you said that. I said it flip, but and yeah, you kind of see it as, there's an iceberg, there's underneath stuff, that can get a lot of work on it. And then there are overt stuttering symptoms, which there can be difficulty, in treating effectively and long term. Obviously, some people have success, with treating some of the overt characteristics. Others try many things and, don't seem to have as much luck. So on those more persistent features of stuttering, like, how would you say you try to tackle some of those?
That's a really good question. Before we got on, we were talking a little bit about, my interest in the research that I'm doing in the University of California, the idea of looking at the population of people who stutter and stuttering as a much more heterogeneous, mixed kind of complexion of people and mixed presentation of the issue. If you think about Corona and COVID-19, different countries seem to have experienced it differently. And it doesn't always correlate with the strength of their healthcare system.
Sure.
So there certainly seems to be maybe different strains of it. So I think if we just think of it things that way and bring that to stuttering, I think that what you've co-created with the stuttering community, this online community for people who stutter is just absolutely remarkable. I think there's over 12,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. And then there are several other amazing groups. I'll mention a few, not to leave any out and catch me, but Stuttering Arena, Stuttering Hangout, Voice on Earth for parents of kids who stutter. I know there are many others. Are there any I'm missing offhand?
There's one that's kind of emerging from stuttering to confidence that I would say is gaining some traction, as they seem to be a bit more pro and friendly to fluency enhancement, I would say, than some of the other groups.
Yeah. Without getting into the details, I think they all have a place and a part to play. And I think it really speaks to the multiplicity of experiences. So people who stutter have an umbrella that they shouldn't feel alone. They have a place they can go. Those are online groups. There are organizations like the Stuttering Foundation of America, the first and foremost, and really proliferates incredible resources. You got the National Stuttering Association, westutter.org, incredible organization, support groups around the country, online, etc.
Yeah.
We just announced the conference will be online. So what's great is there's a big tent, and I think that's really important. But we shouldn't forget that under that big tent, there are many differences among us, not only in the color of our skin, but also in terms of our stuttering. And we need to embrace each other, but also recognize the path for one person is not going to be the same as another. And so when you ask about persistent stuttering, I'm coming up with something in my head. I don't know if it's the same as what you mean, but so some people have a very strong stutter. They stutter quite a bit, and it seems to persist through the course of the years into adulthood, and even through whatever they do. And other people seem to have these times where they either grow out of it, it gets a lot easier, or they go through a therapy experience, or very common is they go through some intensive experience where they have a big shift, and then at some point, things go back to being rather difficult to get the words out. How do I look at that? I think the analogy of stuttering like an allergy. So asthma, allergy, many kids acquire asthma. They don't have it. It doesn't present early on. And then many kids grow out of it. others it persists, and they can really go on and live a very full, amazing life and go on to do whatever they're destined to do. If the condition, the reactivity of their airway, of stuttering, the reactivity of their fluency system on a speech motor level continues to persist. So obviously you want to find ways to get through it. If that means learning ways to ride with it, to lean into it, to kind of accept it and roll with it. And at the same time, if it's not possible, and I don't think it is possible in a person's self-discipline for most people to like train the stutter out of themselves or relearn how to talk. I think for most people, that's not how things go. But certainly I'd like to think that for most people, if not all, there are ways to learn to make things a bit easier and to kind of find ways to, keep sailing through those choppy waters. So if you're in a rough sea and you don't have any idea of what leads to capsizing or what leads to, zigzagging in a way that's going to be more productive, you're going to have a wet ride, and that's okay. But if along the way you can acknowledge it's going to be a choppy ride, but we can make it a bit smarter because we can keep our eye on the prize and strategize a bit, we can minimize the degree of the interruption, the distraction, the physical tension. And then, of course, there's the whole other part of that, which is the emotional reactivity, the mental reactivity, the mental load. So I would just say, as a professional where I am at, we look at stuttering with great respect, almost like a force of nature. And it's not something we believe there's something we could do or that a person can do to kind of train it out of themselves. For the most part, there are many things that can make it a lot easier, but it's an important piece to kind of honor what it is.
Yeah.
Great. And then we can also, of course, kind of loosen up some of the reactivity. So generally there's a lot of anticipation that's built up around.
Sure.
You grow up and have all these experiences. There's these traumatic experiences that you have, whether it's on your name or on another word, and you start to have these loops and these stories and these behaviors that just become really ingrained. I have this line I really like, Matt. I think you're going to like it. It's called "Practice Makes Permanent." You got it. Right? So most people completed that one with "Practice Makes Perfect," which is the promise of a lot of speech therapy programs and a lot of in life. But if you just think about it, you're not going to get good at tennis if you're practicing wrong. You're going to make it permanent. So I think the idea is we have these loops and these habits, both physical, mental, emotional, and otherwise. If we can recognize that the stutter is the moment that you want to go forward and you can't. Your body, your mouth doesn't move ahead. You've got it here. It's not going. That's the stutter. Everything after that, in my opinion, is all the other stuff, which deserves respect. But those are all open variables. So while I respect the stutter, I feel that really anybody has the opportunity to kind of revisit how they relate to the stutter physically, how do they react to it, mentally, emotionally, physically, and all those things. And those are the things that are really open variables. And when people start to look at that and open some of those pieces up, physical, cognitive, emotional, different people in different degrees, that's where I tend to see people have a lot of success. And the physical stutter itself starts to calm. The water seem to chill a little bit. They can still be choppy at times, but things often tend to dial down a little bit. So that's what I would say for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that working on elements of the stuttering, not necessarily the physical overt characteristics, but yeah, the anticipation around it, the emotional side of it, etc. The numerous areas you've mentioned, a person's belief system about their stuttering and how it will be reacted to, the conditioning that happens to a person just over, a childhood or a lifetime of stuttering. Even if it's subtle, like I would say experiences I have occasionally, even still, are like if my speech isn't flowing, at the at the level that my mind is, and I'm having just little pauses here and there. It can be like, it's not this overt, huge block, that somebody sees and is like, whoa, what was that? So that's not really the negative experience that I can still have on occasion, but it's more the delivery, like of how something is said, its tone, its timing, its cadence.
Yeah.
In my estimation, and I think there's forms of studies on this, that that carries more meaning, than even the content. So still, a challenge for me is, like, at times I still, if my speech is a little choppier, it's not this really overt thing, that somebody's seeing, but it's coming off different than I intend, and I can see that. So yeah, just, that's still a conditioning element that I still face, I would say sometimes, where it's
So
like,
you're saying
I feel negatively about it after.
what you were referring to before when you asked me about the nature of stuttering that kind of lingers. So you're describing your experience with that. That's how it lingers for you. It's not the really choppy water I was describing about with overt, taking water on. It's more that subtle little ripple that you experience. It's not someone giving you, a response or a chuckle or a funny look, but it's more your own internal feeling of something.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I would
And
also say,
and I would just say that's no less relevant. I
Yeah.
said, I knew at the beginning I was taking it in one direction, but I think it really, again, highlights in the whole community, and I'm speaking from a point of view of a professional, it'll help all of us to recognize the multiplicity of our experiences. So when you were asking me the question, I think you had one intention, I had a different understanding. Neither of us was wrong, but we didn't have shared meaning. And so my response wasn't spot on for you. And that's
no, I felt like your answer was
okay.
very adequate for what I posed. Then just some of the topics you had gone into, can trigger other topics in my mind. So with this free-flowing discussion, that we talked about, I felt okay to take it in a new direction.
Love it. Yeah, I would say, I would just share with you, and I think I shared this with you in Chicago. I've been cooking this up for like 3 years.
Yeah.
It's right there with, who else was there with us? There was Ruben Schuff was there in the lobby, and you were there, and Courtney Bird. I had just shown it to Courtney Bird as well. So we came up with this way of framing things that I think is very plain, straightforward, and I'll just present it simply, and I think it might be of interest to you to dive in some more, the comments, whatever. But first of all, you have self-knowledge. So self-knowledge, a person deserves to have the opportunity, if they haven't already, understand how speech works, how effective communication works, and what's happening with the stuttering thing. What is it? In the sense of not why is it, and not how is it, but what is it? Just put a finger on it. Very plain, very simple language. So just kind of like get smart about speech communication and stuttering, and the relation of the two, and what stuttering can impact and what it can't, and what are things that you are gifted at. Your eye contact, for you, for example, Matt, your strength, your presence, your vocabulary, your word choice, your passion are all assets as a communicator. Stuttering can't take that away, even if the stuttering is present, and it can have its toll in whatever way it does.
I appreciate the flattery, but we're probably going a bit far, on some of those compliments there.
If anybody's watching, you could drop a comment. Let me know if you think that was a bit over the top. But, no, I think, and that's why you've accomplished so much of what you have. Those are assets that you bring that not everyone has, and you shouldn't take them for granted. And I don't, and I think they're admirable and remarkable. We'll stop there because you don't, not here to do that. But
I just want to pop in with one thing, if that's all right.
Please.
This thought has occurred to me numerous times as you've been sharing, because your approach is so person-centered, which I think is great. I mean, you see the whole person, you see their strengths, and then there's maybe a challenge they're having that you're going to work with or whatever. And I think it's great to have that person-centered mentality. And I also just want to comment that, I think you're more on the forefront of that, but I feel like I see that happening to an extent across society. Like, I feel like schools are even starting to do it a bit more. Like here in Florida, they just moved away from I think a core 40 diploma or something, where every child is and student is cookie cut.
Yep.
And they're opening it more to let's work with, the strengths and weaknesses of each individual, which I do think is a much healthier approach for the child, and will allow for more blossoming, for a person to really come into their own, as opposed to be forced into a certain model that isn't them.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Matt. I think that, in education, we're seeing more student-centered learning, project-based learning. All these trends are very much the thrust of what's going on. In medicine, patient-centered care, so 100%. And I really would say, I think it would help more people, especially the people who stutter, and certainly professionals, but at least people who stutter, the community of people that are looking to do better, to just be able to just express themselves more freely and go after what they want. I think it would really help to move away from talking about what program did you go to, or what's the best program, because there's a big misconception that, well, if this program has these numbers, it must be the best program. Well, little piece of statistics is that any number you run on 100 people, so you get statistics, and then you get, significance and relevance, and you can make conclusions about a population of 100 people of a similar complexion, what you would tend to expect as the outcome, and you can replicate that. But when you have an N of 1, you are one person looking for help, you use that data, and we should use data to inform our decisions, but ultimately, an N of 1, the statistics of what happened for 100 people not relate in the same statistical way. So 80% responded well to such and such. So out of 100, 80% responded well. And you'd have to look at, what does that even mean? They responded well. But then when it comes to you, you've got to look at, well, what's at play for you, and how good. To me, it's always interesting. People say that person-centered approach seems refreshing. I wish it was less refreshing. That's my hope.
Sure. It would be the standard, basically.
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at? One thing you just said I wanted to touch on.
We did a lit review for another project that I did actually with Ashley Robin Croft from University of Texas, and my good friend Andrew Carlins, who's studying at Duke. Big shout out. Andrew was a teenager I met who stutters, and went on to want to do a research internship. So he joined me, and he hooked us up with his uncle, who was at Brigham Young University. And then Robin is a PhD student down in Texas with Courtney. So we looked at the lit review, and exactly what you just said is patient-centered care. Does that seem to be an emerging thrust majority? And it does seem to be the case, as you said, that it's much more mainstream, and it's shifting from what used to be a much more, approach-based or, modular, manual. Yeah.
This is the curriculum.
Yeah.
Or this is the treatment approach. We're squeezing everybody into it. It's become more individualized. One quick thing you had mentioned that I wanted to touch on, because I know prior to this discussion, we've talked about like moving the stuttering cause forward and, you know, kind of how to go about that. And I know you were talking about being an N of one as an individual, but then, yeah, also on the research front, where certain therapeutic approaches, you know, can be researched. I mean, you get the results, you know, to see how effective the treatment is, et cetera. And I'm a big fan of research. I read a lot of it. I like it. I learn a lot from it. Like, I mean, at the same time, I do often find myself taking some of it with a grain of salt.
That's good.
Yeah, which, because there are, you know, a lot of even academic peer-reviewed studies on certain methods, you know, that show very high levels of effectiveness, like even generalized over years.
Yeah.
So it just makes it kind of difficult to decipher, you know, when even what's supposed to be the highest standard of like, you can rely on this, you know, when even
I don't know what that would even be in our field.
Yeah. See,
So,
where I'm going is partly that I would like to see a shift in the community to more synthesis of research, as opposed to like, it's great to explore new topics, and I support that absolutely. But yeah, you know, I mean, there's a limited number of funding, you know, a limited number of funds, and a limited number of people working on it. And we've made some progress. People have done some great work, but we do still seem to be at a place where it's like, we're quite confused by the condition. It's pretty hard to figure out like what treatment's going to work for each individual.
right.
So I think outside the box approaches should kind of be welcomed. And I really think a good one would be, you know, to get kind of high level thinkers on this subject, to work more on a synthesis project, where you're really evaluating, you know, I mean, the history of research that we have, which is in abundance, and formulating compelling hypotheses that actually do explain a lot of the phenomena of stuttering, you know, which there's many, and it's hard to unify them. But I would love to see more of a synthesis approach, and more of a people really taking a, like in the NFL, I mean, a coach can have a win now mentality, where it's like, I mean, they come in and it's like, you know, we're not building, you know, for 7 years from now. We want to win now. Like, I would like to see the research community, as opposed to taking a 50-year approach, really put pressure on themselves. Like, let's make some big gains, and let's do it now. So, and I mean, they're doing that. They're putting out great research. But yeah, I would like to see a more aggressive approach and some more synthesis.
Yeah, I think you raise a lot of good points, and certainly there's a tremendous need for disruption in so many areas that have kind of become stale. And that being said, you know, research is research. You know, Dr. Fauci, America's doctor, you know, they've got all the incentive and probably as much money as they need. And yet there's a certain pace at which the research process moves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are a lot of pieces there. I would say it's definitely a space that I think you have a lot to contribute. And at the same time, I think we need to be really pushing on that front. We also need to be pushing on things that we see are helping people. There's no reason that, you know, I think they should work in concert with each other, be informed by each other. But you raised some really good points there. They're not points that I have a lot to add to, but I think that there's a lot of good thinking there to move ahead. I did want to just share that, I'll do it quickly. The first point was these 4 pillars or 4 units, because I think it also speaks to where the research has been stronger and where the research has been weaker, and it's for good reason, but there's room for us to grow and move it forward. So the first was self-knowledge. So how much a person knows about their speech. It would be interesting to look at something like that, because you can't have agency. You can't own your process. You can't be the boss if you have no idea, oh, my engine is in the trunk, it's not in the front. Who knew? So, if you don't know which side to pull up at the gas station, you'd have trouble not having trouble with your running out of gas, So it's my belief that giving someone a dashboard of like RPMs, how full your tank is, how hot the engine's running, that kind of knowledge in one's communication experience in and of itself is a very empowering thing, and it drives the next pieces. So I think that's an important, interesting piece to look at, where that it would be present. And then let's say you did a therapy program in the absence of that. What kind of difference might you see? Second unit would be the idea of the physical mechanics. So get stuck. You've got blocks, you've got repetitions, you got prolongations, whatever your experience is with tension while speaking, figuring out, learning ways, what are the stimulus response, what are some of the parameters of what seems to ramp that up, exacerbate it, or on the contrary, kind of bring it down and make it easier. That's the strategy side of things. That's where people talk about things like fluency shaping, stuttering modification, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would like to call it just like self-adjustment, learning how you can drive your car differently.
Yeah.
Spin out less. You might still spin out because your tires are awesome for a Formula One racetrack, but they're not great when it's a slippery road.
Sure.
So learning about those mechanics and, how do you take the turn a little different? How do you accelerate into the turn a little different? Each person according to their need. The third unit steps into the next dimension, which is a little more focused beneath the surface, which is that self-acceptance. How do I kind of move the ball forward, go for that interview, approach that significant other, talk to my parents, my colleagues, my friends openly, because I am more than just my stutter, and really finding a way to come to one's own personal truth with that I can keep moving forward even in the presence of my stutter. And that doesn't mean I resign to the fate of what is today. I can keep moving my ball forward, but even today, in the presence of the stutter I have today, I can speak my truth. I can pursue my dreams.
Yeah.
And, really seeing the things I was describing in you, but looking in the mirror and seeing more than just the unattractive and undesirable, seeing those, but there are probably 99 other things that are being overshadowed and erased in that process. So that's a really important piece, and that touches on the emotional and all that cognitive stuff. And then the last part would be something really interesting with Courtney, I think, is really leading on, Courtney Bird, in the research of self-advocacy. How does one become open? How does one tell the story that they want to be told about their stutter, and what kind of listening and what kind of communication partner behavior they want? So how we advocate, how we tell that story. And sometimes some people in the stuttering community are looking for figuring out, how do I tell my parents? I want them to fill in my words sometimes. I don't want them to have me wait and work it on myself. And the other person says, I wish my parents would just wait and give me that dignity to say it myself. But the parent doesn't know.
Yeah, that's an
so
excellent point.
Whether it's finding it in writing, whether it's saying it in another moment, obviously not in the hot moment, but exploring and diving into that space of how do you get open to get what you want and not assume that the rest of the world knows what to do. Because even with the best intentions, the employer, the teacher, whomever, they don't know more than you know about stuttering. And if you don't know what you want, so the idea of self-advocacy is another important layer that has to do with employment, interviews, relationships, school, everything. So those are the 4 pieces. And that's how the online course is sorted out. If anyone wants the free preview, it's a free overview, the same one I sent to you, Matt.
I've checked it out. And I skimmed through some of the videos. Obviously I knew you were knowledgeable on the condition going in, but I really like the vibe of it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was some of the positives about it, as you've mentioned, are you can kind of work at your own pace. It is like it's self-empowering to an extent because you can work at your own pace and you're acquiring self-knowledge. It's not really dependent on the SLP. Obviously, like I haven't scoured into the depths of it, in terms of the exact approach in each area, but I do like the 4 pillars.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to check it out on our website, on the homepage, or if you go to schneiderspeech.com/online-course, you can get a free look at the overview, videos. And if it interests you, take a deeper step into any one of those or all of them. But that's a way to frame it, Matt, I think. And it also leaves room for that piece that I'm obsessed about, differentiation. So empowering the individual, but also creating a multiplicity of paths. When I was a kid, I don't know, we're not that different in age. I don't think. I'm younger than I look, and I think you are too. But I think, choose your own adventure. That was my favorite type of book. So you get to a certain dilemma, and it says, if you take the red pill, skip to page 73. And the story continues like as if you took the red pill. And if you don't take, if you take the blue pill, go to page 25.
Gotcha.
And that's how we're trying to design the course, that each person really can take their path, dive deep, relevant for them. And that's what I think needs to happen in therapy in general.
And that's again touching on the individualized approach, which I am a fan of. So
you got a last question for me, Matt, or you want to take this for part 1 and we can revisit? It's up to you.
Last question. I'm going to make it quarantine oriented. Okay. What's your favorite way to stay connected during quarantine?
Awesome. Well, I would just say this, and this is the truth. I would encourage everybody, just hop on a call. I think so many people are so more accessible now because they're, depending where they are, they're more stuck at home or not in their regular routine. Everybody's kind of more available to some degree, and their schedules are different. So just today, a client was late. I was busy drafting our, blog post about what's going on with the Black community in America and around the world. And I wanted to make a statement, and I wanted to show it to some of my friends and get their input to see if it seemed like it sat well with them and if I was striking the right balance. And the person wrote back to me that she was crying from what I had written. And so I just clicked the button and I said, okay, Facebook Messenger, let's video connect right now. And so she was messaging me.
Yeah.
She's in tears. I said, hey, let me give you a virtual hug. So staying connected, I think just, for me, hitting the phone or the video is pretty effortless. For someone that is not effortless, I think I like different. I like to choose one messaging platform. I use WhatsApp a lot.
Gotcha.
Who I talk to, as opposed to Facebook, it's a little bit like too many conversations at the same time. So that's my weapon of choice, WhatsApp. But the key for me is just get a meeting, whether it's Zoom or call.
I mean, just in adding to that briefly, I would just say, I really second that. And for numerous reasons, social media, can have a negative connotation to it. And some of those reasons are valid. But I do think, that there are some positives to it. And I do think it's a real blessing in the current times that it's so easy to connect through video and phone and whatever. So I would second that. I've done some extended family calls. I would say on some fronts, I've seen some people more than I would have without this. So that's been a positive.
Yeah, last night we had a 70th birthday party for my mother-in-law, and my wife made a trivia of Kahoot questions about my mother-in-law. My uncle was out in Arizona, and this one was in New Jersey, and everybody was on, and it was so cute. And what we've done for the stuttering community is very early on, we recognized this isolation. And like you said, the social media is amazing. If you can go to the next level, like things like Stuttering Hangout, where you can get online with a group of people who stutter. On June 14th, we're going to do another round of free meetings. We have meetings for parents, teens, and adults, and then we have ongoing meetings. But those meetings are free, and again, it's all on the website. If anyone feels like they're looking for community, looking for connection,
Yeah.
Check out Stuttering Hangout. Stutter Social. I'm sorry. Stutter Social is another
Yeah.
one.
They do have some
Got-
calls.
Yeah. And the most important thing, I think, Matt, is finding our answer to that question. Make sure we don't feel disconnected. We got to be connected.
Once again, find our individual way to meet that connection need.
If it's nature photography, I know a guy like puts up beautiful pictures of nature. I can't tell you how much
you
I
can feel connected in nature, so that's a good
just
way too.
connected to the outdoors, and he helps the rest of us connect when we can't be in New Mexico. You know, the guy's amazing.
Oh God. Oh boy. All right. Well, I think that's a good note to end on there because we're both so strong on connection. And its role in life and in stuttering, I would say. So I appreciate the call.
It's been great.
Really,
Man.
really good to see you.
Are we going to do this
obviously
again in
we'll
3
be in
years
touch.
or sooner?
What's that?
Should we do this again in 3 years or maybe we'll move it up?
I think sooner.
I'm looking forward. We'll check those comments. I'm sorry if we didn't get to those. This was great, Matt. Great to see you.
Awesome. All right.
Stay safe, stay well, stay connected.
You do the same. See ya.
All the best.